the madman, coming straight to you with movies, cigars, and a brew. Discussing movies while kicking back, whether they are good or they're bad. With the hottest movies and non-released, I am talking about details and what I see. So tune into the podcast while I vent with reviews, news, and nonsense, yeah.
And now, recorded live from the capital of the first state of these great United States, Keith.
So, back again, fresh from the Virginia Film Festival. This time I got to take a look at a couple movies, but the one I'm going to talk about today is Wakefield. It was released at TIFF this year for the first time, and it's made a few of the film festivals since then. This is a Bryan Cranston movie, and almost wholly a Bryan Cranston movie. It was written and directed by Robin Swicord, and Robin Swicord, among other things, was somewhat involved with The Curious Case of Benjamin Button, and another movie as well, which slips my mind at this point. But this is almost like a one-act play, not one act, but a one-man play. Bryan Cranston is the main lead character. Jennifer Garner's in it. Jason O'Mara and Beverly D'Angelo are also in it. But basically, they have very little actual dialogue screen time in this movie. It's almost wholly Bryan Cranston's, monologues that you get to hear. Essentially, he plays another less than likable character. This time, it is Howard Wakefield, who's a successful attorney with Jennifer Garner as a wife. 2 kids. He seems to have it all. But one day as he's coming home late, and he's getting these messages from his wife, and he's definitely looking a little depressed, and he sees a raccoon that's going into the attic above his garage, and he kind of follows him up there, and he notices his family sitting there in the dining room, which he can now kind of the kitchen dining room area, and he can look down into it, and he sees his wife preparing to call him, and she's very unhappy. And he essentially decides he's not ready to go home and face them, and so he sits down in the chair. Next thing you know, he's fallen asleep, and it's the next morning, and instead of facing his wife then, because he's assuming that she is going to, be very angry with him and think that he cheated on her, which, obviously he did not, he decides he's just going to check out, and that's pretty much what he does. I mean, he decides he's going to live in the attic, and he's not going to have anything more to do with this family other than he's going to stay there in the attic. Doesn't really give any long-term goal there other than he's there, and he's, he eats out of the trash, and he stays hidden from his family, essentially. And, that's a very interesting perspective right there, because, all of it is really him filling in words around it, initially around what's going on, in the screen or downstairs below him. And that's where it's kind of comical. Cranston really shines here with his commentary on, the different people that kind of come into the house, and he fills in what he thinks about those people on top of it, to some extent, and that really was entertaining. And that's probably the best part of this movie, is just how captivating watching him and what he's thinking and doing, kind of shines through it. Though also what they do throw into it, where there are some scenes where some of the other players have some actual speaking roles, are in flashbacks, and you kind of get this, you get the sense of where his life has come from and how he, basically could become this shattered man that just kind of loses his mind at one point and decides to check out of his life. Everything he's done in his life seems to be the result of selfish acts. His interest in his wife came from his somebody else being interested in him. In fact, they even had this weird sort of thing where he likes to watch his wife talk to people, you find out all the reasons of why, things just kind of went sour for him. And the biggest part of it is that he doesn't value anything in his life because he never put those things in his life for the right reason. And that's not to say that this movie is perfect. There's a few strange things in it. There's a scene in the early part of the movie where she throws his dinner in the trash, and then all of about 2 or 3 minutes later, they have him going up and picking that food out of the trash, and then they did a weird flashback where she's throwing it back in again. It just seemed like, well, you didn't need to remind us of that at that right particular, at that exact moment. So I don't know what they were getting at with that, but it just seemed like it was. You can't think we're all that stupid that we don't remember she threw it in the trash. And then some of the other stuff that was in there. There's some neighbors that live there that have the home for kids with Down syndrome, and at one point he befriends them, and it seems really out of place because most of the stuff with this guy, is not about him having any redeemable qualities, and that's definitely the case. But then why do we kind of throw this in to kind of add this element that somewhat humanizes him? But not really to any great effect. It just didn't seem like it needed to be there. I didn't quite. I think they could have gotten to that aspect without including that there. And then overall it was a great movie though. I mean, this is really a Bryan Cranston film though, and it's probably the best thing that he's done on the big screen. He was great as Walter White, and that was definitely one of those things where you kind of are rooting for an anti-hero. Though you can identify with, I think we can all identify with the concept of just checking out at your life at some point and just kind of wanting to wonder how people would get on without you. This doesn't leave you with the same sense of, ultimately he was doing it for his family. No, he wasn't really doing it for his family at all. It really is because he didn't value them in the way that he should have. You can just see his entire life was kind of based that way. And that's not to say that doesn't make it a good story, because there's, not every story is about somebody having the best intentions with everything that they do. And he clearly is not one of those guys. But he does, give it a great performance. Few people could really carry the movie the way he did, and I think he did an exceptional job. I'm going to give this a B+ overall. It's one that's not out yet. I don't know exactly when it's going to be released. It's been to several of the film festivals, and like I said, I saw it at Virginia. I'm sure it's going to come out soon. It's going to have sort of an interesting audience, I would imagine, because I don't know who's going to love this guy, but it was a great performance, and so I definitely recommend seeing it when you get a chance to see it. Should be probably will be out this fall, I would imagine, and within the next month or two. If not, then I'm sure it's going to be one coming out in this next year. So look for it, and we'll be talking again soon.
You have been listening to the Movies, Cigars, and a Brew podcast. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Spreaker, and Stitcher. Find reviews of other movies, cigars, and beers at moviescigarsandabrew.com. Give a like on Facebook or follow Keith on Twitter @MovieCigarBeer. Your trailer is coming up next.